In the wake of Pop's death, Luke strikes back at Cottonmouth, but discovers that others may pay the price for his stand. Plus, we discover how Carl Lucas became the man with unbreakable skin. It's the Netflix original series, Luke Cage, episodes 3 through 5. Hey everyone, D here, and welcome to our continuing coverage of the amazing Marvel series, Luke Cage. First off, apologies to you all. I know it's been a few days since my last review here. The week kind of got away from me. On the plus side, I did finally get my Luke Cage t-shirt, so I feel like I can really continue forward properly. So, there are going to be spoilers ahead, just so you've all been warned. Alright, so we're going to start off with episode 3. Who's gonna take the weight? And like I said from the get-go, this is where, in the wake of Pop's death, we've got Luke striking back at Cottonmouth, and striking back in the best way he can find, taking his money. Cottonmouth is already dealing with problems due to the robbery, with Domingo not being really happy for him, and Luke pretty much builds on this. Raiding Cottonmouth's other locations to sort of funnel money towards his Fort Knox, which is, of course, the Crispus Attucks building. Beautiful scene of him going in, just taking everyone out, really making a name, really making a statement for Cottonmouth to see. And, of course, ends up paying a bit of a price for that. Oh, and Cottonmouth's dig towards Diller, Black Mariah. That's actually the original comic book name for the character back in the 70s. But of course, that was then. Now we see that title as being just a little bit racist. So glad that we dropped that and she could show that that title, not a happy thing to hear. The reveal that Detective Scarf was in Cottonmouth's pocket I thought was beautifully done. Really, that came in there. I was not expecting that. Especially in the earlier scenes when they're talking with Chico, and he's right there with Claire and pushing how much you want to turn things over, how much you want to talk to us, things are going to go bad, you're going to die, call us as soon as you know. And then even the scene right before Chico's demise there, where he's talking Misty, do you want to come with? I'm going to go pick him up. Very much letting you know that he's part of Misty's and the police investigation. So when you see him there the next scene, sitting all alone in the middle of nowhere, just standing by the car, you got that feeling that something was not right about this. And as soon as he took off his tie, that was the end of it. You knew things were bad. So anyway, I really enjoyed that tradition, and of course, feel a lot less about Jules shooting him back in Pulp Fiction now.
You know what they call a quarter pounder with cheese in France?
No.
Tell him, Vincent.
Royale with cheese.
Royale with cheese. You know why they call it that?
Because of the metric system?
Check out the big brain on bread.
It feels like he deserves it. And of course, Luke's assault on the Crispus Attucks building was beautiful. Really just illustrating Luke Cage as a tank, as a irresistible force, just moving through the building, throwing everyone else, grabbing the couch and wicking around and knocking people down. I mean, it was just a beautiful example of that type of tank approach. It's just strength. I can take all the hits you want, just gonna go through and just mow everyone down. Well, without killing anyone, but just really, it was just a beautiful, beautiful, intense sequence. And lastly, once Cottonmouth learned that Luke Cage was behind it, I loved the fact he just took a rocket launcher and just went right for him. There wasn't long discussions, there wasn't monologuing, there wasn't threats, there wasn't, okay, it's gonna be me and 3 other guys, we'll just go and take him out. No, none of that. Just a beautiful, direct response to such a threat. He just pulled out a rocket launcher and his biggest weapon he could and just went to straight take him out. I loved that directness. It was beautiful. And that leads us to episode 4, Step in the Arena, where we get the backstory of Luke Cage and find out his original name, Carl Lucas. And of course, Carl was framed for a crime that he didn't commit and sent to Seagate Penitentiary. Not your regular penitentiary, no, this is a private-run prison that supplements its income by broadcasting illegal fights between the prisoners, and then a little supplemental by experimenting on those self-same prisoners. So we get a nice little background, get to see where he came in, and also got to meet Reva, his future wife. In many beautiful scenes. It's one thing I really enjoyed about this episode also was seeing the interaction between Luke and Reva. We haven't really seen much of that, but the chemistry that the two of them have with each other in every scene that they're in can really feel that attraction, can really feel that interest playing back and forth, getting to see it build from the earlier conversations, and then as those start to develop more and more, really with the two of them together, we can really see why Luke connected so much with this individual and why Reva in turn was willing to risk almost everything in order to save Luke at the end of the episode. So really just one of the highlights of this episode for sure. But of course his main nemesis in this is the head guard Rackham, who pretty much comes off as like an aged Joffrey. If this was Joffrey from Game of Thrones grown up, I think he became Rackham. Very cruel, very vicious, very manipulative, and quick to point out kind of Cage's weakness here is Cage starts off, or Lucas at this point, starts off very much wanting to be alone. Why? If you know people, that makes you weak. And that does prove to the end of things. What causes a lot of the trouble for Luke is his connection with the other prisoner, his connection with Reva down the road, though of course it's also because of Reva that he ends up saving his life. So while his trust gets him in trouble, it gets him in the fight, and then of course when they torture his buddy and kill him and find out what Luke was after about turning things over, put him in the position that's nearly killed him. However, because of the connection that he made specifically with Reva, she is the one that asked the psychiatrist, that asked the doc to put him in the tank, which eventually gives him his powers. So we do get to see sort of how trust in others can put you in danger, but it's also what is going to save your life. And just a couple little points here with that. One, everybody seems fine with telling all the prisoners that Carl Lucas used to be a cop. Isn't that a big no-no in prison? Isn't that going to put a giant target on your back? I can get when the guard throws it out, but Reva in the middle of group, weren't you a cop? I don't know, that just seemed like a really bad move to do for me. Also, loved the fro. It's big, I mean, it shows why Shades did not recognize Cage as Lucas earlier on, because he looks completely different. But it's beautiful, especially guiding into the beard there, and as months and time passes and it just gets bigger and more unkempt, it starts to look like this giant lion's mane around this huge man. I just thought it was beautiful choices right there. Really looked marvelous. And of course, let's be honest, the tiara. Oh, that was beautiful. When Luke pops out of the wreckage of the experiment and the smoke and everything starts to clear, and he's just got that classic Luke Cage tiara on. Yes, it's part of the machine, but this is a great way to integrate that, to just give us that look. And then later on when he escapes and he grabs the outfits, it was just, I mean, that's a beautiful classic 70s Power Man Luke Cage outfit with the big yellow open shirt and the tiara on and everything. And of course his response, I look ridiculous, I thought was just perfect. But a nice homage, really got us to see that kind of classic costume and look for the character. And of course, in the midst of that, let us not forget the dropping of the most classic Luke Cage line, "Sweet Christmas, indeed." And finally, of course, the episode wraps up with the big moment, "My name is Luke Cage," right to the press, right towards everybody. Very much the Iron Man moment in this series here. He is going public. He is not hiding anymore. He is putting himself out there. He is making a declaration of who the new hero of Harlem is. And I think that this was a great move. It really establishes, especially this character being so much different than the rest of the characters in the Netflix universe that we have. Again, he's not hiding. It's not like Daredevil. It's not even like Jessica Jones, who is not even really acknowledging who she is. This is Luke Cage stepping forward publicly. This is who I am, this is what I do, and I am not afraid to say it. Marvelous. So finally we've got episode 5, Just to Get a Rep. And these, of course, the consequences of Luke going public. Cottonmouth already knew who he was, but now we have Luke not hiding. And they really set that straight at the beginning of the episode, where he is just moving everything out of the wreckage of Genghis Cohen's, trying to find the picture of Reva, which Misty discovers later on. But more to the point, we've got crowds standing around him with cell phone cameras and everything else, taking pictures, observing. Luke is not hiding anymore. He is sort of making a declaration of who he is and what he is. So really, again, another big move on his part. But of course, Cottonmouth deciding, well, if I can't take you out, then I can hurt the rest of the neighborhood. I'm going to turn the neighborhood on him. And this is really where Luke starts to learn the consequences of his actions and finds out that it's not really about him anymore. It's about Harlem. It's not about what he wants. It's about protecting the world around him, the people around him. And as that big final line is, your ass might be bulletproof, but Harlem isn't. And that's really where we're looking at this. And of course, the big final scenes, battle of the speeches there between Cottonmouth and Luke Cage. And I'm going to say again right here, I love all of these moments. We've seen a few of them the past couple of episodes. Really those moments between Mahershala Ali and Mike Coulter, just their back and forth as Luke Cage and Cottonmouth. Marvelous sequences, really well done, really showing the charisma of the characters, really showing how they both in their own way care for the neighborhood, care for the people around it, but really are taking different approaches of expressing that love, of showing in a way that protection. Cottonmouth protects the neighborhood as a whole while still hurting the people within, whereas, of course, Luke Cage is more interested in protecting the actual people that are there as opposed to establishing a rep for himself or establishing some sort of power base in his mind. It's really all about the people, especially by the end of this episode. And of course, here we also get the return of Claire Temple, returning up to Harlem, escaping after all of the fallout of her experiences, especially in the hospital there with Daredevil and the hand coming in, and that whole scene in season 2 of Daredevil in the hospital, which was horrific. But also seeing and dealing with the consequences of her encounter with Luke Cage back in Jessica Jones. And here, I mean, we get a first great scene off where she gets off the train and gets mugged and just chases the guy down and just beats him down. Wonderful reestablishment of Claire's strength, her sense of purpose, how she is not taking crap from anyone. But also her reflections on what she has been through and what is it that she wants. And here we get to see really the birth of the night nurses, those small group in Marvel Comics that take care of the heroes, that heal them, stitch their wounds, all of that. So we're starting to see the birth of that, where Claire's really seeing, hey, I have seen these amazing things, and that's what I want to do. I want to take care of the people that are taking care of everyone else. I want to take care of these enhanced individuals. So really great introduction with her back into this world, and then of course fully really showing that connecting link with the rest of the series. I mean, we've seen a few of those before. We do have the references to the incident that we had in the beginning. We had Turk showing up in the first couple of episodes, which was great. I loved after Tone got thrown off, how he was more willing to go back to Hell's Kitchen and get beat up by Daredevil than to stick around here in this group in Harlem. I thought that was a great moment. But we continue to see these little connections. Now, the downsides they do with those is enough references to the guy with the hammer. Use people's names. At this point, we've already had even the whole Sokovia interactions, situations happen and occur. So there's a lot that has happened. Stop with the off-the-cuff references. Oh, and the Green Giant, the guy with the hammer. It's Thor, it's Hulk. We should know these. We can use these names. We have heard Tony Starks, but while there is a reflection of these other incidents and these other parts of the world, they really seem to be pushed off the side. Kind of reference, but not really not really connecting in. And I just think they need to open that up a little bit. If you're gonna say it, just say it. Stop piddling around here with the monster, the guy with the hammer. Enough of that. And just, I want to acknowledge what I think are tremendously intelligent and character-driven moves for the bad guys. Cottonmouth specifically, even that opening sequence where one of his men is standing up and, I've been reading this book and it's about this and maybe we need to do this sort of benign thing where we just let him be alone and we can be our thing and just move forward. And Cottonmouth just shoots him. Just no statement, no big speech, no threats, just shoots him. That is the statement. It's very smart and very direct for bad guys. Oftentimes we get too much monologuing and speeching, and they're not doing that. And then we have the scenes between him and Shades, which I thought also beautifully done. I mean, we have Shades here that is helping to really steer Cottonmouth and really giving good advice. If you notice, he's not talking to him in the presence of anyone else. When he has these conversations, it's just him and Cottonmouth, so it's not trying to embarrass him. Shades isn't trying to embarrass Cottonmouth. He's really trying to give actual advice, and he, of course, can do this comfortably because he is Diamondback's guy. He's Diamondback's representative. That is a means of protection, but he doesn't hit it over the head. He accepts that, he is who he is, and he moves on. And so the dialogue between the two of them is filled with a lot of respect and, again, a lot of advice from moves, which Shades is trying to say, hey, you don't have the money. You going out and hitting people in the neighborhood, that's not going to do it. You should sell this place and get out. Yes, that is not what Cottonmouth wants. But there's the freedom to have these discussions and really advise different ways of doing it. I'm really enjoying these moments. Again, it's not fake posturing. I mean, even when he tells him about the Judas bullet and says, this is how much it costs, and Cottonmouth is pushing, well, I'll just try and get Diamondback to just front me for it. I'm good for it. No. Shades is straight. Look, if you make that move, then Diamondback's going to come in and take over. You don't want that. Either pay the money or find some other way to deal with this situation. I'm really enjoying intelligent conversations here that aren't felt. Oftentimes we have a lot of stupid moves and stuff. You go, why are you doing that? Just to drive the story forward, and they're not. They're keeping everything really tight with this. And it makes the characters much more interesting and makes them much more believable, and we get an actual human connection with them. While we may disagree with Cottonmouth's approaches, we can see how much he cares for the neighborhood. We can see how much even the loss of Pops hurt him. We can see how much he wants this club to make a difference in the neighborhood. The same that we saw with Mariah Dillard when she had that conversation with Stokes about the long-term effects and legacy. These characters are really going for something real, which is how we can identify with them and how we can connect with them. And it makes them so much more interesting antagonists than just bad guy number one and bad guy number two and the big boss. All right, so I think that's going to wrap us up for this coverage of a couple episodes of Luke Cage. I'm going to try and get the rest of these out in the next week or 10 days, so pay attention. I'll have them come out every few days or so. If you did enjoy this review, I'd appreciate a like button. You go ahead and hit the subscribe button right here and come back for all of the rest of these. Plus, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., amazing fourth series, highly recommend that. If you want to check out my first reviews for that, you can hit this button right up here. And also Westworld, a new HBO series, wonderfully done. Great cinematography, amazing cast work, just highly recommend it. Just started into the mysteries that they're going to be laying out for the upcoming season. If you have HBO, I highly, highly recommend checking that out. In fact, I'll throw my review right up here. You can go ahead and check that out right there. All right. You can always catch me on Twitter and Instagram. I'm at Darren Jakes. There we go. Other than that, I will see you guys next time. I'm D, and I am out of here. Take it easy. Bye-bye.